Well, good morning, all. I would like to call this meeting to order and welcome everyone. Hope everyone enjoyed their long weekend. Welcome to all members of council and to staff that will provide us facts and information so we can make decisions in the best interest of the Corporation of ACW and all of our residents, permanent and seasonal. Also, welcome to all members of the public that are here this morning, to each and every one, and also the media that may be joining us. Meetings of council are live streamed on the Township's official website in accordance with the live streaming and virtual participation of meetings policy. Do any members of council have a pecuniary interest or general nature thereof to indicate at this time of any agenda item that we have today? Hearing none, I thank you for that.
Daryl Mitchell, I'm a resident of Colborne, and I'd like to speak to 9.1, the Property Standards Bylaw Agricultural Zone Exemption. I don't believe that this has anything to do with agriculture. Our agricultural community is honored by the tremendous land we have, the tremendous people we have working in this community. But I do believe that the exemption is used by people who are non-agriculturalists at times so that they can do uses that are not agriculture in purpose or do things that are not good for the community as a whole. And I'm going to cite a couple of examples from other municipalities or other areas in the world where this has happened. And I think it's incumbent on this council to have control of what's happening in the community. That's your job. You're the husbandry people that are supposed to look after this community. The first one I'm going to talk about was about 2 years ago. It was November 2023 in Caledon, where there was a gunfight. And there was one person killed, 2 people were injured. When the OPP did their investigation, it was at an illegal trucking site. And at that time, they found all kinds of different things in the site itself. Everything from stored vehicles that were stolen to waste that was stored there illegally and should not have happened. Caledon itself, I've got the article, I'll be giving it to the clerk afterwards. Caledon itself has 300 sites across the town of Caledon. They call it a town, but it's like our municipality. And they have 300 sites that they're concerned about where they say they're illegal trucking sites, but they're illegal use sites. There's been everything from toxic waste buried, asphalt, concrete buried without any permissions from the township. They have a bylaw, an illegal dumping, and have stated in Caledon, Ontario, illegal dumping is a concern with both municipal and provincial laws prohibiting unauthorized waste disposal. But if we have an exemption of agricultural properties, how do you know? How do you know what the use is? And so in their case, they have an article. And again, you can find this online. I would be given to the clerk addressing illegal trucking. And they're citing everything from the storage of stolen goods to toxic waste. I have an article that the Michigan State had done regarding the poisoning for profit, the mafia and toxic waste in America. Do you know that the most lucrative thing that the mafia does is store and get rid of toxic waste? It's not prostitution, it's not gambling, it's not selling guns, it's not drugs. They get rid of more toxic waste than any other of their profitable items. It's inherent there. I'd also like to cite Metcalfe Township, Strathroy area, where they've had problems with an agricultural business setting one of their farms up to store waste from the cities, human waste, piles and piles and piles and piles of human waste. And there's another article here was through CTV. The fellow, I know this fellow very well. He's a farmer, a cattle farmer in the area, and they're fighting it. You know, went to the OMB and they allowed this operation to happen. But they've got piles that are bigger than your silo piles. They've got piles of toxic human waste that's there. The problem is it's used as a fertilizer. Wonderful. I'm an agronomist at one point in my life. I'm a realtor now. And you can use it as waste, but if you put too much of it on, it will damage the soil and it will contaminate possibly water. In this case, they're putting it on one farm, putting it on other farms, selling it to other people to put on their farm. And that may be fine as a use for fertilizer, but what's it doing to that land? And the local neighbors are trying to stop that from happening. Unfortunately, the tribunal said, it's okay, you can do this. As stewards of our land, you need to protect it. You need to make sure that illegal uses are not happening. And if you don't have this bylaw opened up, you won't be able to do that. I support you as whatever decision you make, but I think this is an opportune time to make sure that those areas that are doing things that are wrong are known and are sometimes controlled or licensed or corrected. We're not talking about people who run a machine shop or that may have a other reasonable business. We're talking about people that are doing illegal things, and they're not farmers. The farmers are wonderful people and deserve to be protected. Thank you for the time, and I look forward to your decision.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your comments. And I should have said at the outset that the time frame is 5 minutes for any comments. And at 4 minutes, 30 seconds, the timer will go off just to indicate there's 30 seconds left. So welcome, and we look forward to your first and last name and your agenda item, please.
Good morning, Mayor, Council, and staff. My name is Karen Demerling. My husband and I own a property at 82725 Hunters Road. I'd like to speak to regarding agenda item 9.1, property standards, bylaw, agricultural zone exemption. I'd like to support the recommendation to remove the agricultural exemption from Part 5 of the property standards bylaw. By ensuring all property is required to maintain a similar level of property standards, the bylaws to investigate and enforce complaints and infractions are easier to navigate. Perhaps there are minimal reporting recorded for complaints on agricultural zone properties, as there's no standards to enforce. Follow-up and recording are a moot point if there's nothing to enforce with. Having a uniform property standards bylaw for all zoning would give the bylaw enforcement department the ease of not trying to determine zoning and minimize discussions with regards to infractions of the bylaw. More and more agricultural properties are being purchased, not with the intent to farm, but the intent to have a large property, outsource cropping of a few fields to gain agricultural tax reduction, and using the remaining acreage to operate a home business for recreational use and storage. Having a property standard bylaw that encompasses all zoning in Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh will help to control the misuse of the zoning in this circumstance. As someone who grew up on a farm, I'm well aware that farms need a lot of space for stuff. I seldom see farms and other agricultural properties that do not show pride of ownership, unless there's extenuating circumstances or the farm is not owner-occupied. By having the bylaw in place, the standards can be encouraged and enforced easier. Aesthetically and environmentally, having Part 5 of the Property Standards Bylaw enforceable on agricultural zone properties will be a benefit to ACW, residents, and guests. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to make any comments at this time as far as any agenda item? Please.
Hi, I'm Lori McKim-Lang, and I'm at 85211 Mackenzie Camp Road. I'm here with, I'm the president of the Cottage Association at Kintail Beach. I don't have a prepared speech, but I was sent by someone else by our Cottage Association. But we are here, four of us, to support the bylaw of property standards.
Thank you for that. Is there anyone else who would like to make any comments at this time regarding any agenda item from the public? Seeing none, I thank you very much for your comments. We'll now move on to 5 under delegations and public meetings, and I would like to welcome a representative from the Hunters Beach residential community to address council at this time. Please indicate your first and last name for council, if you would, please.
Right.
And you have up to 10 minutes, sir. And it will, the timer again will go off at 9 minutes, 30 seconds. Thank you.
I'm just starting a broadcast, Mr. Mayor. You don't have to call me sir. It works. Magic touch. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for letting us come and address you today. My name is George Dark. I have been a resident in the summertime of ACW for about 25 years at 82717 Grace Road South, down the hill from Karen. And the good-looking group of people behind you are all neighbors at Hunters Beach, some of whom have been there for over 60 years. I'll let you decide which one of them have been there for 60 years, some actually longer. Some of you know that we have a very long-standing issue with the access to our properties. We have a community which is on the lake. We have one road that goes to it. And, you know, one of the reasons that all of us who are from many places want to own property in ACW is because of the pattern that it exists on the land. It's a beautiful farming community. It's one of the things we really like. It has a nested set of hamlets inside that, which are equally wonderful. And then a very unique set of communities that trace the shoreline that actually aren't connected to each other. They are all independent. They have like an umbilical cord that goes back to Highway 21. And, you know, the effect of that is interesting because on the land side, there's redundancy. It's an orthogonal grid. If you can't go one way, you can go another way. If you want to go around, you can go around. The shoreline is totally different. The roads come down from Highway 21 to the communities, and the communities are not connected to each other. So it is like a series of cul-de-sacs. I guess it's part of the joy of them, but it's also one of the things that should access become interrupted or interrupted for a protracted period of time, it does become highly problematic. And of course, on the other side, we can't get there because we have this big body of water. So here's our community. They're all very similar. You can see the yellow line is the umbilical between 21 and the community. When they get to essentially the lake bank, they morph into really odd idiosyncratic road systems that, you know, people 50, 60 years ago carved into the lake bank. Most of the roads from 21 go through farmers' fields. So this is ours, Hunters Beach. This is the condition of our road as it stands now, which is privately owned. That's what it looks like, of course, when it hits the lake bank. The farming stops, the lake bank vegetation takes over. There's a lot of grade change. You go down. It's really similar. Here on Sands Road is very typical as well. This one's paved, runs through the farms, goes back, becomes a set of private roads when it actually gets to the lake bank. Or Maple Cedar Grove Road, almost identical, umbilical to Highway 21 going into a community. The infrastructure that's required to feed these communities is deadly simple. You can't get more simple than that. It's a right-of-way, 2 verges, and gravel. I listened to one of your council meetings where Thomas was explaining about gravel on the roads. It was absolutely fascinating. It was fascinating, Councillor Milton-Berg. Talking about the percentage of silt in the gravel. We don't have any gravel. We just have silt. That's a result of having absolutely no maintenance done on our road for about 6 years because it is prohibited. We also share the road with a very large industrial complex. It is has an agricultural zoning, which is modified agricultural zoning. So there are no property standards applied to it. It's allowed to be whatever it wants to be. This is a picture that probably isn't completely accurate, but you could see from the top that our road has to feed through that. And on many occasions, the operation is both on the road and both sides of the road simultaneously, requiring us to drive through and around in order to get to our properties. So for a good 30 years, our link to Highway 21, unlike the others that are public, have become inappropriate. It's out of alignment with the use and the function. There was a draft plan of subdivision done in 1954, essentially because the farmer was selling the lots and needed a way for people to get to them. So the draft plan was created to allow us to get to our lots. It was never the intention that that road system would be restricted, stopped from being maintained, or blocked in order for us to get to our properties. That wouldn't make any sense. The road system was created to let us get there. We're here today as a group because this is having the effect of destabilizing our community, our security, financially, and functionally. We are at a point now where we're really at the last part of what we could possibly think of to do. We've given you a written brief. I know you're not going to make a decision today, but we have a brief that we've given you for your consideration. It's based around 7 themes and 25 explicit reasons with a basis for an expropriation. I'm not going to go through them all in detail because they're in the brief, and I'll let you read those. But life safety and security is a real issue. If there's a defined time for access down the road for life safety, we won't meet it because you can't drive down our road on most times more than 5 or 10 miles an hour. That becomes a real difficulty because there are people living in our community who do require access to those facilities. They're not well, and they have to have those facilities. The road from time to time is blocked. The bigger problem is that service vehicles to service our community will no longer come down the road. Service our septic systems, contractors, Meals on Wheels, which one of the clients requires, will no longer come down the road. This is an incredibly destabilizing effect. As I said, the original intention of the access road was to provide access to the lots that the farmer sold at the time down on the shoreline. This leaving it in private hands, we would consider fundamentally a mistake in 1954. You wouldn't allow it today. It was a mistake to do it then. And it has allowed essentially one owner to stipulate how the access is used to in excess of 30 taxpaying properties. And that's just not a system that can be continued. The right-of-way was originally for a farm and recreational properties. Today, it's used by large tractor trailers, trucks, heavy machinery. Maintenance is not allowed. Thomas, it isn't that we're not doing maintenance or we're doing it improperly. It is disallowed by the owner. And for the last 6 years, there have been no maintenance applied to that road. This isn't the same as other communities along the shoreline, which have a regular pattern as capital is available to bring them up to a standard to get to the properties. So privately owned access roads to communities don't match your policy today. They haven't for years. If you look at your official plan, your zoning bylaw, any lot is required to be on a public road. You can't make a new one unless you have a public road. And the reason for that is completely obvious. It avoids the entire situation we've been living through for the past 30 years. Or as some people here in the crowd would say, longer than 30 years. There are future development parcels in the official plan, which we fully support, to have additional people join the community. You have to have a public road in order to gain those lots in the zoning for it. So you have had a long-standing policy essentially prohibiting the kind of access system that we have going to our properties. So, we've also wondered if Market Road is a common situation, meaning are we coming in front of you and saying, here's not one problem, but 15 problems? And I think we've discovered it's an anomaly. The application of policy required public roads for many new subdivisions, but also even back when ours was created, they were public. They were not private. And so, there's the list that are public. There's the map, which comes from your documentation. We're almost the only one, sorry, not me this time. We're almost the only one that is in this situation that isn't a kind of special condition where someone owns all of the land. And so we don't think it's a anomaly that, we don't think it's a common situation. It's an anomaly. And frankly, we think it's an error, and it's time to fix that error. Our residential community is becoming unstable. People are choosing not to come. People are trying to sell their properties to get out because they can't deal with it anymore. And this is doing an interesting thing.
I apologize that your time has expired now. I'm just going to ask council, with council's permission, we can extend the time specifically if we would like to hear any more, or it's concluded. What is the will of council? Councillor Miltenberg, please.
I'd like it to continue, maybe not for another 10 minutes. You're doing a grand job.
2 minutes would do,
Yeah,
council.
do I need to make a motion, or what do I know?
No, just maybe up to 5 minutes.
Sure.
Is that okay? Is council in support of this? And I would ask for a show of hands. Okay, you have up to 5 minutes. And
Yes,
then
thank you, sir. Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Florence warned me I'm a man of too many words. You were nice about it, and this is using up my time, so stop. It has a negative effect on our land values. Our prices are going down. Our marketability is very hard. You can't get agents to list our properties when the new rules for disclosure come forward and you explain the whole situation with access, the buyers walk away. It's a tainted access system. At impact, it's having impact of dropping the property values, which you'll see in your taxation, because our values, unlike others along the shoreline, are going down. The appropriate role of public infrastructure and community type in the official plan, you have a spectrum of agriculture, villages, and communities along the shoreline. To protect the communities along the shoreline, they have to be connected to Highway 21 with public infrastructure. If they aren't, they'll go through the spiral of failure that we're having in our longstanding community. Honestly, everything's failed. Since 1993, we've been attempting to perfect this situation. We've not gotten up the hill 1 inch. And so all situations to try and perfect this have failed. We're kind of at our last effort. And so we would request that council not directly make a decision for this, because we understand it's not an easy decision to make, but if you could instruct staff to begin a process to scope and then undertake the expropriation in 2025 to understand what it would mean, we would really appreciate it. We have one outstanding concern, and that is that we've had 2 fires in the community that have totally destroyed buildings to the point that they're gone. We've had 1 property completely vandalized to the point that it's unoccupiable. And we have people who have life safety needs, and we need to have the road established and designated as a fire route and a life safety route, and be maintained in a situation at the point up to we get expropriation that can allow us to live there safely. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Now, this is not a debate. However, I will open it up to council. If you have any questions or comments for clarification, please. Councillor Miltenberg first.
I don't have any comments beyond great pictures, great presentation. My question is, can we have a staff report come back on this? And I'm going to assume it may well need to be in camera. Okay, thank you.
Absolutely, we can, if that is the will of council. And I will ask for a show of hands if council is in support of directing staff for a staff report on this. And that is the will of council. Thank you. Any further comments from council? If not, thank you very much for your
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
presentation to us today. Thank you. We'll now move on to Treasury and the payment of the current accounts, and I will entertain a mover and a seconder to authorize the payment of the May 2025 accounts as presented. And that is Councillor Forster and Miltonberg. Are there any questions on these accounts? Councillor Deputy Mayor Vanstone, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On page 3, council survey equipment. What is that for us, or is that for the people who are doing the septic?
Okay, thank you for the question, and I will defer to staff. CAO, do you have a comment, please?
Sorry, Bill, what was the vendor's name?
It's Cancel Survey Equipment, Inc. It's on page 3.
Okay, yes, so that's for the survey of a property that we have under litigation.
No.
No.
It's
Okay, go
Okay,
ahead, Tom.
I will defer to our CBO, please, Joy.
The Cancel survey equipment is GPS that is used for the COSIP program, as well as
Follow up.
Then this we own this, then it's not for the people who are doing it for us. That was my question, more or less.
we own the survey.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? If not, we have a motion moved and seconded. All in favor of the motion? And that is carried. Thank you. 6.2 is the payment of the previous month's accounts, and I would entertain a mover and a seconder for this, please. Councillor Miltonberg, Deputy Mayor Vanstone, that Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh Council hereby approves the payment of the April 2025 accounts in the amount of $923,194.55. Do we have any questions on any of these numbers? If not, all in favor of the motion? And again, that is carried. Thank you. 6.3 is the summary revenue/expenditure reports for the Township, the Lucknow and District Medical Center, Lucknow and District Recreation from January to April 2025. I would entertain a mover and a seconder for these, please. Councillor Hickey and Councillor Miltonberg. Any questions on these numbers? If not, all in favor of the motion? And that again is carried. Thank you. 6.4 is the Community Grants Policy Amendment. It is coming back to Council for further consideration. Do we have any questions or comments on this? And I will go first to Councillor Miltonberg, please.
Yeah, I would say, excuse me, it appears to echo exactly what we said, so I'm happy to move it. The other comment I would make is, since this is a work in progress, I'm wondering if we could just have it come forward next year organically, rather than us going, oh, we didn't get it right. If staff notices or whatever, say, maybe we need to do something a little different until we're sure we have it right, because we've looked at it 3 years in a row now and said, that's not quite right, is it? So those are my comments, but I'm happy with, we've caught it so far.
Okay, so your sentiment is that you'd like it to come forward next year again, just for review if there's any adjustments. Okay, any other questions or comments? Councillor Hickey, please.
Thank you. Clarification for staff. We've dropped the maximum from 5,000 to 2,500 request, but then they can also ask for 2,000 in-kind services. So could one organization still get both the in-kind plus the donation to equal 4,500, or are they restricted to either or in the request?
Thank you for the question, and I will defer to staff for clarification on that, please, if you would. Treasurer McManus.
I think the way that the policy is written is that 2,500 is for direct financial contribution, which could be in addition to $2,000 in kind. That's my interpretation, but again, if it is the will of council to be otherwise, we can add a note or a clarification on that.
Okay, Councillor Hickey, please. Thank you for that.
Sorry, that's how I read it. So that would equal up to 4,500 or for an organization that asked for it, essentially, right? So I was just clarifying that was it was the way it was supposed to be read. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Miltonberg, please.
Yeah, and I agree that's how it should be written, and I don't envision that we're going to give them 2,500 plus 2,000. I envision we'll give them 2,500 plus dump fees or something like that, right? And I think that's how it should be interpreted. So thank you.
Thank you for that. Any further questions or comments on this? So the sentiment is directing staff to bring that back next year for a review if there's consideration for that. And I'm going to ask for a show of hands if we are in support of this, and we will consider adopting that in the bylaws. And that is supported by council. Thank you. And thank you to staff for this. We have nothing under planning today. Under building department, the CBO's report. It is for information purposes. Do we have any questions or comments on this report? Very similar to last year. 8.2 is the community on-site inspection program, missed inspections. We do have, we will deal with this. Is there any questions or comments on this? It is the recommendation for option A. Do council have any questions or comments on this? And I will go first to Councillor Snowblin, please.
Yes, thank you. I had some time to review this and look at this, and I thank the chief building officials for bringing this forward, and the clerk for sort of filling that loophole that we discovered on the penalties part of that bylaw. I think that option A, in my personal opinion, feels a little bit too lenient. I feel that it's a bit of a multi-step, and I'm not sure entirely, although I have no way of sort of verifying that it's as cost effective as what the option A allows or shows it to be. I feel option B is quite strict, but it can be modified. And maybe we can modify the timeline, modify the annual fee, and make it more palatable to our residents across the township. I feel that option A being too lenient leaves a bit of a crack in the door. And I'd rather, when I look at bylaws, I'd rather them, particularly in this instance, I'd rather that they be a little bit more on the strict side with the ability of staff to, work with residents, as opposed to having it lenient and then trying to keep enforcing it with layers of different ways of people being able to get around it. I think that we've had a soft opening on the septic inspection. And as we've discussed at short-term rentals, we, appreciate a soft opening. It kind of gives our residents a chance to sort of buy in. Everybody gets a chance to get their toes wet. And I think we've had a good chance for the soft opening. But I think what we found with the soft opening was there was a fairly big loophole when it comes to the penalty part of not complying with the septic inspection program. And in instituting the septic inspection program was a long process. It required a lot of consultation. It wasn't cheap to implement it. And I think that staying on the stricter side will have a greater cost recovery than being on the lenient side. I'm hope if we do have if council decides to do a more strict option, that we leave it with staff under exceptional circumstances where warranted to work with residents under exceptional circumstances, and it's up to staff to decide when those exceptional circumstances occur. I guess I would like to see personally something between A and B, something that looks like instead of 90 days, go to 30 days or 40 days, instead of an annual fee for properties, maybe it's a biannual fee. Anyway, that's my feeling on it. I know that there's a property in mind that has that kind of highlighted where this loophole existed. And that's where I'm coming from with this. I don't say that this happens all the time, but I think as long as people, respect the bylaw, there won't be any problem. But it's people that
will continue to take advantage of council. And I think with the delegation that came forward just a few moments ago, we can see where a council maybe was a little too lenient or didn't come down hard enough. And after a few years, 30 years, I guess, it's morphed into something that has become almost a Herculean task to fix now. And I wouldn't want to be a counselor that contributed to having a bylaw that ends up getting abused and misused somewhere down the line. But that's my feelings. I'd be open to hearing other people's opinion on this. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Councillor Snowden. Before I go to staff on this, do you have a sentiment as far as you commented about modifying the time frame and the amount? Do you have a sentiment on what you would like to see, please?
Well, to start with, I guess for discussion, I would like to see that unpaid invoices, well, let me see here. We should change it from a 90 days to a 30 days. I'm trying to read my own writing on here. I think that if a missed or canceled inspection fee, it says in here to revise the title of the fee to missed or canceled inspection fee to include appointments canceled without rescheduling. There should be a fee if that rescheduling appointment now gets canceled or rescheduled. So every time there's a rescheduling and it doesn't occur, another fee should be added on that. The $1,200 annual fee for properties that do not complete an inspection within the calendar year, I think it should be, we can still keep it at $1,200, but $600 at 6 months, another $600 at another 6 months, so it accumulates. So it hopefully gets people to, act fast within the 6 months rather than the whole year.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm going to go to our clerk at this point in time, please. Clerk Witherspoon.
So just we've spent, Joy and I spent a fair bit of time working at this together. So the problem that we have with doing something less than an annual is that the inspections programs themselves only happen between June and September. Mm-hmm. So if we're trying to find the balance, if you're scheduled to be in September and you ignore the request, within a certain time frame, it becomes difficult to. Again, I think we need to highlight that this is a tool in the enforcement box that when things become extenuating and difficult to manage, that we have the tool available to issue. So if it becomes very clear that this is a constant repeat, that there is that fine in there if need be. So I think setting some tighter parameters around the timing of it, I think can be a little bit problematic in terms of the practicality of it, on the logistics on the boots on the ground.
And the application of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Noted.
Yep. Okay. And actually, do you have a follow-up comment, Councillor Snowden?
I would like to hear what my colleagues might have to say on this.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And actually, I will make a comment that I share your sentiment that we don't have many that are a problem. However, the ones that are need to be dealt with. So I'm going to go now to Councillor Miltenberg.
Yeah, first of all, sorry, I don't know what that is this morning. Great job, Councillor Snowland, of putting into words far more eloquently than I was uneasy with this, but I was unclear why. And most of your comments I 100% agree with. I think that we've gone in with the soft sell. We are trying to get people to comply. The people who are not going to comply are probably the ones who aren't planning on complying. So I would, in my mind, option A is where we would maybe want the bylaw to end up with. And option B is the structure we want to make people take the bylaw seriously. I'm less interested in the nuts and bolts of days or cost recovery, or because with any new program, I mean, let's talk about the dump in the let's not, but something that's supposed to be revenue neutral often takes a while to get there. And I'm far less interested in cost recovery right now than I am with compliance. And I think that no, you need to take this seriously is a good approach. And once we've gone through the township and everyone has been told you need to take this seriously, then maybe back off. And as opposed to, although I'm open to, let's say we do, which is almost draconian, but I'm okay with that in this instance, the $1,200 annual fee. I'm quite happy with an appeal process, whether you say the staff makes it, or, I mean, if there was genuinely, I didn't get it, or something really happened in my personal life, I wasn't able to do this, you know, that there is a structure to bring it down or make it disappear completely if the reason the meeting was missed was genuine, or something, like things happen, life happens. If it's because they're just not answering and they're not continuing to answer, then that's another thing. So I personally would like option B. I'm happy with however staff thinks that that's the best way to deliver it. I think in the long run, it's probably too strict, but for the next 3 years until everybody gets their first notice and realizes, no, you have to pay attention or there are consequences, that is the better route to go. And the tools for enforcement, like Florence, I think you explained it very well, and I agree with that. That's why I'm not really too concerned about how you're going to do it. I think the intent should be that we make them take it seriously, so repeat offenders are treated that way. And then once everybody has a full understanding of the program, which is not there yet, we put a more, okay, now going forward, this is how we're going to do it. Those are my comments.
Okay, thank you for that. Deputy Mayor Vanstone, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I agree. There should be definitely a $1,200 set, because people will, if you could just, if we go back to the gravel, like if you're only going to pay $200 a year, why will I fix it? I just pay the $200. It's cheaper than fixing it. But I'm hoping, and I'm not hoping, I want to see it happen, is that after September, say 1st of October, we revisit this and look at it really seriously, and that way we can come down with some really hard and fast figures. So I'm asking the staff to bring this back in the first meeting of October, if that's okay with everybody. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I'm going to make a comment before I go to staff, and that's the fact I concur with option B. As I indicated, we don't have many that would fall under this category. However, there needs to be something done with those that do. Joy, do you have any comments? I know on option B, if council would decide to go with that. Any concerns from an application standpoint, please?
So, as I said, that in the report, it is a punitive way of looking at it, going with the $1,200 charge if they miss their inspection for the entire year and do not communicate. And it is very, how do I say this? It's a lot of money for anyone who has missed it by mistake. $200 is more reasonable for most of our residents. The ones who will not listen, I don't know if $1,200 will even matter.
Okay, thank you for that. And I'm going to ask a secondary question. There's a sentiment that this come back to council for reconsideration at a point in time. What is the time frame that you would suggest that, from your knowledge of the application, that this would come back to council for reconsideration? When would you have some information, that would enable us to make a further consideration?
Typically, statistical numbers will be available closer to December than in October.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Thank you for that. Clerk, do you have a comment, please, this time?
Just a point of clarification on the Provincial Offences Act. The line item in the bylaw ensures that the entire bylaw is enforceable under the law. So it ensures that if there is even, despite the missed inspection fee that is included in the consolidated fee bylaw, if there's any other element inside that bylaw that is determined by an enforcement officer to be in non-compliance, we can essentially make application to court. So that is the purpose of that line item in there.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Hickey, please.
Thank you. I support option A. I think it's got everything in there that needs to be: the days, the money, the process of how to go about it. As far as the $1,200 fee, if someone has their heels dug in and they're not going to allow it, they're not going to allow it. And if the $1,200 gets applied, I think it's going to be appealed and the next step after that. So I don't think it's going to be an easy process for the time and the money that's going to take. So I think option A has everything in it that it needs to be, and I'll be supporting that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Any further questions or comments from council? Councillor Miltenberg, please.
Yeah, based on actually everyone's, but while I actually think item B is the better way to go, but that's me, I'd be willing to go along with item A, or what is it? Not option A. Just because we have something in place right now, and then with the staff report in December, whatever, we can look at it more individualized with statistics and see if we do need to be more, I keep saying draconian. It's not draconian, but it's not good either. More punitive, I guess. I'd be willing to support option A with the understanding that everything comes back when Joy has it ready.
Okay, Councillor Snowblin, please.
I'm still more in favor of a consolidated option A and option B. However, I could live with option A if it was amended from 90 days to 30 days. And if the second bullet, property owners will be contacted biannually, meaning twice a year until their inspection is completed, rather than annually. And I know, as the clerk pointed out, that there's, because of the timeline of, what was it again, Florence? June to September. But I think it would be fairly easy still to do that, even if it doesn't fall within the timeline of the actual inspections. And yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thank you very much. Clerk, do you have a comment, please, on that?
Just speaking to the 90-day item, I believe that's an accounts. You'll have to. I'll get Mark to speak to that. I think I've rung a bell here.
Okay, CAO, please.
That's with respect if they don't pay the invoice, it'll be added to taxes. So that'd be similar with everything. So the 90 days isn't when you do it; it's just added to taxes if they don't pay the invoice.
Okay, clerk, please.
So just to clarify, any invoice that goes out from the township, regardless if it's the COSIP program, if it's unpaid within 90 days, it gets put to taxes. So that's just an internal system. So if the invoice isn't paid, what you're asking for is that if the invoice isn't paid in 30 days, that it get put to taxes. And I'm not sure if that can happen. I'm not versed in that.
Does that make sense, Councillor Snowblin?
That's what I'm asking, is that you don't let it go unpaid for 90 days. I was in business. If you didn't pay it within 30 days, you got a phone call. So I don't know very many businesses that allow a 90-day window before they even get called that you're behind on your invoice. So I think 30 days is common, and I think that's a way to tighten it up, whether it goes on the tax bill at what point, but you've got a bill now at 30 days. That's what I'm getting at. And the one last point that I forgot, if supporting option A, I would live with it, as Councillor Miltenberg said, to have it come back in October, that we can tighten it up, but just to have something for now would be good.
Okay, I'm going to defer to our CAO as far as the time frame, just for clarification, please.
Just want to clarify, the invoice goes out. If they don't pay within 30 days, there's interest. And interest will accrue until 90 days, and then we'll add it to the tax roll. So they are getting the penalty and interest added.
Okay. Councillor Snowden, please.
But to follow through on that, that's not what the bullet says, right? It says unpaid invoices are transferred to the tax roll after 90 days. There's nothing else that explains that it's past due at 30 days and that interest accrues, and there's nothing in that bullet that explains that.
Okay, CAO, please.
Okay, good. We can make that change.
Okay, so now in stages, Deputy Mayor, are you okay if this comes back and I will suggest December when there's statistical information for reconsideration of council?
Yeah, and I look to Joy, if that's when all the information is there, as long as it comes back, that's my biggest concern, is that we look at this, and if we need to be more aggressive at that point in time, then we will be. And if it's flowing very well, then that's great. So, but I really want it to come back so we can look at it again, and if Joy is 100% sure December's the month, that's the month.
Okay, so the sentiment of council I will suggest is that to direct staff to bring this back to us in December when we have some statistical information. Councillor Miltenberg, please.
Kind of. My sentiment is we go with option A and then bring it back in December. As to the 30-day thing, speaking as someone who may or may have not missed township payments and the next day slap on 1.5%, and I've just set it up electronically so that doesn't happen again. It's quite a punishment to miss that 30-day mark, and I'd be horrified if it went on my taxes because that would just mean I was a terrible bookkeeper. So I'm okay with that 30 days, and if it needs to be added with interest, because that's kind of understood by people who sometimes concur it or incur it, that's fine. I do agree with Anita about whether we say you have to get it inspected in 30 days or within the year or biannually or whatever, I think they do need to be notified biannually that just a reminder, you have missed, this has happened, and this will happen, like communication, right? But I also agree with Bill that we'd like it to come back. So my suggestion is we go with option A for now, and we bring it back in December or whenever Joy has all the data compiled so we can look and see if we made the right decision.
Would you like to make that a motion, Councillor Miltenberg?
Does it need to be a motion?
No, I think we can just go with a show of hands if we are in support. Oh, absolutely. Councillor Forster, please.
Thanks, Glenn. So the door knocker you leave has all this information on it, or you just have to call, or how does that all go down?
Thank you. Joy, please.
I can get a copy of the door knocker for you to peruse after the meeting. However, it just says that a missed inspection fee may apply if you don't call and reschedule.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Snowblin, please.
Speaking of the door knocker, I would be incredibly interested to see what the success of the door knocker is from the point of view that we know the worst one in this septic inspection. We know which property that is. And I don't think that the owners are there very often. So I question then if it's STRs, short-term rentals, that are possibly being non-compliant, how often is the owner of the property getting the door knocker? Is it more advisable, successful to reach out through email, phone, other modes of communication as opposed to a door knocker and or both? And maybe that's something we should think about for option A, because a door knocker on a short-term rental where the owner is rarely there, I have a feeling the door knocker's going in the recycle bin.
Okay, thank you for the sentiment. Joy, do you have a comment on that, please?
In the terms of short-term rentals, if they're not being communicative and looking at their door knockers, they can be contacted by mail. Note that most of those people that are not going to pick up their door knocker do not provide an email or phone number beforehand.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Snowblin, please.
Well, if I think then if we're making suggestions about amendments and so on, then with the door knocker, there should be an additional mode of communication, either email, phone, letter that goes with the door knocker automatically. just to safeguard the door knocker getting knocked off in a windstorm even, for people that are owners that are there. Speaking as someone that's done a lot of campaigning over the last couple of years, door knockers do get blown off, removed somehow.
Okay, thank you for that. So I'm going to ask, we have a sentiment of going with option A and this coming back to council for a revisit when there's statistical information in December. Councillor Snowblin, please.
I thought I understood Councillor Snowblin, or Councillor Snowblin, Councillor Miltenberg to say option A with some of the suggested revisions, like changing it from 90-day to 30-day and for now, and then still having a report come back in December. That was my understanding.
Yeah, I'll ask for clarification on that, please, Councillor Miltenberg.
So what I think should happen, or what you are referring to, is option A for now. And if it's necessary to add, I don't think it should go 30 to 90 days. If it's necessary to add the wording, that plus interest will be added to. And I also think that it should be communicated biannually as opposed to annually. That's what I think should happen. Well, that's up to, I think we've given staff, here's some additional ways that I would call that operational. I don't think we have to tell them that.
Okay, thank you for that. Clerk, please.
Just to clarify, what we're hearing is we want to make sure, and it's in our interest as well, we want to make sure that everybody knows this is coming. So we're going to make sure that they're aware one way or another, be it a registered letter, or a letter. Like if they're non-communicative, the last thing we want to do is, not do due course, because that also gives reason not to pay, right? Like there's justification on the other end of it. So the task would be to ensure that they understand that there are fines and repercussions to what's happening.
Is that the understanding of council? Okay. I am going to ask for a show of hands if we are in support of Councillor Miltenberg's comments. Opposed? And that is supported by council. Thank you. Staff clear? Good. Okay, thank you. We'll move on to Administration Department and the Property Standards Bylaw. And we will seek direction of council on this. We have heard some comments today on this, and I will open it up to council for any comments, please. And the first will be Deputy Mayor Vanstone.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've always wondered why we had the exemption on agricultural, like way back when Colborne never had an exemption. So all properties were looked at under the property standards bylaw. So I'd be more than willing to take that out of there if that's the will of council. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Miltenberg, please.
Well, I'm going to disagree with Bill on this one. Good, we're back to normal here, Bill. I think, and we have had conversations other times, like I think in the property standards, you're not allowed to have your old junky vehicles. I know currently there are 3 trucks of the same year and model that are someday going to become 1 truck, hopefully in 2025 or 26. And some of us consider them an eyesore, but they are behind my shed and not visible from the road, but by property standards, they're actually probably not allowed. So I think some of that, the burning stuff, and I haven't looked at it closely because we talked about it many, many times because this comes forward. So I'm going to speak more to the 2 individuals that came forward to talk about their comments. The first gentleman, it was really impressive what he cited, especially when I just wanted to clarify one thing. Michigan State is the top agricultural university in Michigan, and it's one of the top 10 in the United States. So when he said Michigan State did this study, it's because they're an agricultural one. And there was not a direct link, but I almost went to Michigan State University for agriculture. So I know that. So that study to me was significant. And I think what his point was not that there wasn't a need for property standards. It was more, we have to find a mechanism to stop the people using rural properties for illegal uses. Like, let's talk about the tire. Remember that when they burnt tires, was it Hagersville or something? That was agriculture, right? So that is a separate, to me, topic than the actual, it's causatory. It's not, it's collateral. It's linked, but it's not a reason. The bylaw isn't going to catch that necessarily. I think because we are a complaint-driven municipality, lots of people know things people are breaking bylaws, but they're not reporting it. They're not interested in putting their name on documents, which you need to do, which, by the way, I think are protected by HIPAA. But the second speaker was talking about decisions that could be made based on what might happen. And I don't tend to make my decisions that way. I think it's good to keep tracking them like we did. But I think 2 complaints in ACW, which is, the size of Toronto, is not enough to remove the property standards. It sounds more either like 1 individual or 2. Like that's enough. That's not enough data for me to say, okay, this warrants removing this. I think we should monitor it. I think we should look at how to stop illegal uses. Like, I'm really interested in those cases, like maybe in the stuff that he gave the clerk, they have tools that we could build into our bylaw. But based on the data that we were given, I don't see any reason to remove the property standards on agriculture. And those are my comments.
Okay, thank you for that. I will make a comment, and I concur with Deputy Mayor Van Stoner. You've often said everyone should be treated the same in our municipality, and I agree with that. And I think we have maybe some instances where individuals are skirting around the situation because they're under the agricultural umbrella, and I would support treating everyone the same on this. So, any further comments from council on this? And Councillor Miltenberg, please.
I'd like to address your treating everyone the same. I think if you're seriously thinking of removing this, then we need to look at that actual bylaw very closely, because I know there's burn bans. I know there's things about old trucks sitting there, because we've talked about this before. If you're going to do this without at least taking some public input from the massive amount of people who are going to be affected by this, I think that's a mistake. And what you're talking about is changing a bylaw to catch the baddies. And there's a lot of good farmers that need to burn their brush, or, we're talking about, again, the people who are doing it improperly. And that's the same reason we set up a short-term rental committee. We want to come up with something that doesn't punish the people who are doing it correctly, but educates and reforms the people who are doing it incorrectly. And, all or nothing is not the approach on anything. And so I am really against just saying, okay, let's drop it. We don't even know what we're dropping. Based on 2 complaints, we're saying, okay, let's drop the property standards. When was the last time anyone here read all the property standards bylaw? I read about the last time we had this conversation, which was a year ago. So if that's the will of council, that we think it should be dropped, then it should at least be reviewed before we do that.
Okay, thank you for that sentiment. And I would suggest that it is complaint driven, and your citing of 2 trucks of the same year behind a building, I'm not convinced that is the concern of the public. It's more the abuse of the overall agricultural being exempted from it in some instances. Deputy Mayor, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd be more than willing to bring this back and look at it again, because it's very important. Like, if, everybody has their own property, and one man's junk is another man's treasure. So we should look at this. And again, I know it's belaboring, but I think it's important because there should be some restrictions on some of the stuff that goes on in the farming community, but not to the point where it stops them from, as you say, having 2 old trucks behind their shed. That's all fine and dandy. And we don't want somebody that just drives around the country and says, oh, I don't like him, I'm going to put a report in. So we need to refine this. And I would be more than happy to have it come back and let, I don't know, maybe if we had to have a special meeting on it or something. But it is important. So I think we should look at it again. Thank you.
Thank you for that. CAO, do you have a comment?
I'm just turning his microphone on.
Oh, okay. All right, so what is the sentiment of council? Would you like to come back to a future meeting for consideration? Do you want to deal with it today? What is the sentiment of council? Councillor Hickey, and then for Councillor Hickey, and then Snowblin, please.
Thank you. I support the comments about jumping in too quickly on this. I think it's important that we review it, and we can't punish some just because of a few bad apples in the group. So I think it should be looked through thoroughly before we agree on anything. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Snowblin, please.
I agree that it should come back too, but I guess I was looking over the background of it to find out why is it here in the first place today? Isn't it here today to discuss? But I thought that was the intention today, was to discuss it. Now so staff have brought it to here to discuss, and we're saying, let's bring it back to discuss. Is that what we're doing? It kind of sounds like that to me.
Okay, thank you for that sentiment. Deputy Mayor, please.
Yes, it is here for to discuss, but it was left that we either take it in or put it in or take it out. I think we need to refine it, is what I'm looking at, is so that we can leave it in or take it out. Well, I guess it wants council to decide, but I think we need to refine the specification and make it more, I guess I would say, user-friendly. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Snowblin, please.
I guess if it's to be refined, I would be looking to, are we supposed to give staff direction then as to what refined might look like? Because if we just say refine it without giving any parameters to that, I'm not sure that staff is going to be clear as to what we're looking for. Mark is nodding his head. So I think that was asked of me when I brought it up at the septic inspection. The mayor asked me if I had some suggestions, which kind of caught me off guard, but I had some things written down. So we've had a chance to look at it. I think we should be at the very least, giving staff something to work with.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go to clerk. Did you have a comment, please?
Just that Councillor Snowblin kind of pulled the thoughts out of my head. With all due respect, it's great to say, let's bring it back, but you need to give me a good reason why. Otherwise, it's just stalling it. And these folks who are here, they may not be here, or different people. Yes, I will.
Okay. Councillor Forster, did you have a comment to make before I go to Councillor Miller, please?
Just a quick comment. So like that picture that was in that presentation, like I take it that's what we're trying to deter, like 10 or like 4 months from now, you might have 10 more of them sitting there. Or there's another place he has 5 acres of abandoned farm machinery. Is that what we're trying to deter? Or?
Okay, thanks for the comment. Clerk, please.
The complaints that have been issued on properties that are zoned AG4, so agricultural small holdings. So these are properties that are not necessarily agriculturally related properties. They are, in essence, they are, a village residential in the urban area or in the rural area, apologies. So that has been something that has not been mentioned today. So I thought I would say that out loud. Maybe that's a direction that council could request, that maybe the exemption that be put in is, or that the exemption that is removed is AG4 properties specifically, so that they are treated like a settlement area in the scope of the bylaw for consideration.
Thank you very much for that, clerk. And I think that may address the concerns that some councillors have, that AG4s is maybe what we need to consider. I'm going to go to our CAO and then Councillor Miltenberg, please.
So just to clarify, the AG4 properties are small, like that Florence refers to. So I'm going to give you an example. If you go down to Loyal here and you hang it right, there's a few small little houses. Those are all AG4. They're all small little parcels of property, a couple acres in size, but they're exempt through this bylaw. And if you could, like Florence referred to, you could zoom in on those particular properties, but it's not going to catch them all. So it's not going to catch the larger parcels that you're talking about.
Okay, excuse me. I'll go to Councillor Miltenberg and then our clerk, please.
Yeah, I base my decisions on facts in front of me. So first of all, I think the AG4 complaints changes it dramatically. The only way I would be content to say, let's change 25 pages of a bylaw is to go through each point, because this bylaw has in place for decades. So Bill's, I can't believe I'm doing this again. Bill, you're right in that. At the very least, I think it would need to be done point by point. The fact that it said the complaints were AG4, to me, changes it directly, and I would go through it point by point, thinking AG4 instead of farmlands. I have not done that yet. I think it would be a large amount of time, because I would want to go through all 25 pages with a different lens. So I am requesting this be brought back.
Yep, I can see that. Clerk, and then Councillor Snowden, please.
So for the purpose of bringing this back with something to consider, or to consider it further, would council be interested in seeing a property standards bylaw with the AG4 parcels removed from that, so that there's something to consider and that this discussion can further happen?
I think that would make absolute sense. Councillor Snowden, please.
I think that's a great idea. I'll expand on that though. And not that I'm looking to attend more meetings, but this is a huge bylaw and it has a lot of implications. And I think, as Councillor Miltenberg said, this bylaw has been around for quite a number of years. And because it's so extensive, would it be reasonable to consider having a special meeting of council to discuss just this particular bylaw, as opposed to being in a regular council meeting where it would quite possibly take up a great deal part of the meeting? I'm thinking, an hour and a half meeting or a 2-hour meeting, even if it's at 4 o'clock or something, right after 4:30 when staff is normally done for the day, just so that we have a chance to really get a good scope of it, and be able to go, as Councillor Miltenberg said, line by line.
Okay, thank you for that. Any further sentiment from council on this? Would we like a special meeting for this? Does staff feel that we can do this within a council meeting? And I will defer to Deputy Mayor, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to see the A4, the scenario of the AG4s taken out. But also, I'll have to admit that I would like time to look at this and go through it, because there's things I'd like to see left in, there's things I'd like to see taken out, and I haven't done that, I'll be honest with you. So that was why I asked it to come back, and I don't care if it comes back in 2 weeks or a month, because it is going to take a while to go through this and pick out, because I can just take a few off the top of my head, like trailer parks, for instance. I know of a few farms that have almost become a trailer park, and they shouldn't, but they're exempt because they're AG1. And so there's a whole lot of things in there that I'd like to look at and bring back. And because today I can't tell you what I want to take out or put in or anything else. So that's why I asked it to come back. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. From a staff standpoint, the bylaw is already in place. Like, could we meet a week from today to discuss that? Councillor Miltenberg, please.
That's why I wanted to jump in. We're dairy farmers. You haven't got your soys in. This is prime agriculture season. I actually do not have time to go through 25 pages line by line and think about AG4 and AG and do a good job. I don't want to phone it in. And I don't think there's any particular hurry for this. We asked for it to come back based on complaints. I think it's a fulsome conversation. I think Bill is bang on right. He probably was just reading my mind. But if we're talking about having a special meeting because we need the time, I'm saying let's do it more timely. There is no rush for this. Let's do it either in the fall or after the crops are in the ground, or, if we want to do it in the middle of the summer, I don't know, but a week is way too short a turnaround.
No problem.
For me, thank you.
So what are we looking at on time frame? Because staff needs some direction on this. and we don't have to nail down a date. It can be approximate. Councillor Snowblin, please.
Generally, the first week of June is a good time for farmers. And another comment, I hate procrastination.
Speaking, please.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Snowblin. We do have a council meeting on the 3rd day of June. Councillor Miltenberg, do you have a comment, please?
I would suggest that every single dairy farmer in ACW is busy June 1st. Yes, and is it going to rain?
Okay, so when are we thinking of a time frame? Staff need direction on this. Do we, Councillor Deputy Mayor and then Councillor Snowblin.
Could we bring it back, say, in July? I think that would be quite appropriate. You know, nice sunny day. You can sit out back and read it. Thank you.
Okay, so we're thinking of July. By my memory, we have one council meeting in July. Is that correct, staff? So we could do it the 8th of July if that.
I'm away.
Oh, you're away.
First 2 weeks of July.
Okay, you're away the first 2 weeks. Okay, no problem. Councillor Snowblin, please.
Not being a dairy farmer, I'm not aware of when the hay comes off and so on. But could we extend the meeting on June the 17th to have a discussion of just the property standards after the June 17th meeting?
Okay, that's clerk, please.
So you're looking for a special council meeting after the June 17th council meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
Provided that gives staff enough time.
Yeah, I mean, my intent, if to bring back the property standards bylaw, I wouldn't propose any amendments to it. I would bring it to you as a draft, and it would be up to you to decide what you would want to change on that bylaw. Stated, you know, if it's a continuation of a council meeting, it would have to be called to a separate place at a separate time. I mean, be it to be considered, I'm thinking even from a administrative side of things. So either it'd be included in the June 17th meeting as an item that is discussed, or you come back at 1 o'clock or 4 o'clock to discuss that item specifically.
We could always do it within the council meeting and extend the hour. That's a possibility, and, you know, rather than, you know, that is one option. Councillor Miltenberg, please.
Okay, we have one councillor, Anita, who I love dearly, would like it done quicker. You have a councillor member who is asking for grace in the beginning of June. Can we do it in July? And I will tell you, I could do it June 17th. It will be a hardship. And I would do my best. But I'm asking for the extension to July because, as far as I can tell, there is no pressing reason to do it in June for me, and there's a lot of pressing reasons not to do it in June for me.
Okay, so we have one meeting in July that would be on the 15th of July. We could extend the hour and have it within that meeting. CAO, comment, please.
I'm just trying to bring it back full circle. The intent is to decide whether you're going to include all ag properties or just some. The bylaw itself, I don't know if it needs much amending itself, but I think it's more about what zones you want to include. And right now includes all zone except those agriculture. So I think it's more that there might be a few little minor changes to the bylaw, but this bylaw has been around for quite some time, and they are in there for a reason. They're consistent. So I think we need to wrap our head around whether you want to include the agriculture as a whole, every particular zone, or just particular ones.
And I would suggest from our discussion that a consideration was to whether to currently AG4 is excluded and whether that is our intent, as opposed to you know, agricultural land of farmers type of thing. And we will look at the full bylaw. However, I would suggest that is something we're kind of discussing today. Councillor Snowblin, please.
Could we come to a compromise and start the discussion at the June, whatever meeting that was, June 17th? Is that what we said? June 17th, start the discussion, and if need be, finish the discussion at the July 15th meeting. and ahead of time, have staff provide for us not only the definition of AG4 and how it dovetails and affects any possible amendments to this bylaw, but also any other zoning that might as well. Like, I'm not familiar with all the zones, Florence, but perhaps you could, have a few of the different zonings that might have a great deal of effect or little effect on this, just so that we can wrap our head around it.
Okay, so the suggestion was on the 17th of June and further discussion on the 15th of July. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I'm not sure it's going to be that long a conversation if we have the bylaw in advance for what we want to accomplish. However, that is at the will of council. Councillor Miltenberg and then Hickey, please.
Okay, I've said I can make the June 17th work, and I can. But I would also comment, you are talking about something that affects farmers. And when we talk about something that affects the seasonal residents, we try to do it at a time that's handy for them. And I'm not haying by June 17th, but everybody else who has beef cattle is, or they're spraying their soybeans. So if you want people who are interested and are going to be affected by this to have time, there's a reason why most farmers get married in the middle of July, because there's a break in the middle of July organically. I personally got married in October. So I can make June 17th work. I think it's a disservice to the people who will be affected by this bylaw. And everyone knows what Anita and I think, so I'd like to know what the other councillors think.
Okay, so with that sentiment, let's consider the 15th of July. And I'm going to go to Councillor Hickey and then Snowden, please.
Thank you. As far as the package coming back at the meeting, I just asked staff to do a breakdown of all AG zones, just so we know what's allowed on AG, whatever it is, size-wise, how large the properties are or could be, if there's a restriction on AG4 for size-wise, just so we can go through AG step by step, all those zonings. Thank you.
Yep, okay. Just to follow up on that, I'm going to ask a question. Do you have a brief explanation on AG4 holdings, and you cited the Loyal that we're all familiar with, compared to a 100-acre farm? Difference in zoning, please.
I don't have that information ahead of me right now, so.
No problem. It's cool. Okay, Councillor Snowblin, you'd like to make a comment, please?
I would just say, in the spirit of doing things that are handy for everybody, seasonal and farmers, the seasonal people that were here today at the delegation, I'm sure that they would like to see this come to discussion sooner rather than later, as opposed to at a time when they're not in the area. So just for consideration. July is good, not October.
Yeah. Okay. So if I would ask council if for the sentiment, can this work for our July 15th meeting? And staff would provide us information in advance of that meeting. Deputy Mayor? Oh yeah, you're away.
No, I'm not away, but like that's getting into wheat season. But as long as it's in the morning, that's fine. But
July 15th is our regular council meeting.
yeah, as long as it doesn't get too late, that's my biggest concern.
So I'm going to ask for a show of hands if council is in support of this property standards bylaw agricultural zone exemption coming back to our July 15th meeting that will start at 9 a.m. Is council in support of this? Show of hands, please. That's supported by council. Okay, staff good with this? Thank you. The bylaw enforcement report is for information purposes. Do any members of council have any questions or comments on this report? Seeing none, we have the report also from Veolia, water operations and maintenance, again for information purposes. Any questions or comments? All read that. Nothing under drainage. Yes, I do. That's right. Thank you Thank you very much, Clerk. Nothing under drainage. Public Works, we do have a report that has been prepared by our Public Works Superintendent on progress. Do we have any questions or comments of Tom on this report? Councillor Forster, please.
Okay, thank you, Glenn. I'm really impressed with the job you guys getting the crown on the road, but one of my concerns is this gravel you've put in the grass, like for grass cutting, like what's going to happen with that?
Okay, thanks for the question, Councillor Forster. Tom, please.
The grass is cut over top of the gravel, and then the grass is going to dry up. And if we're going to use the reclaimer, it's a set of discs that you use to pull stuff out, and it's always going to pull grass and sod out of the side of the road. So I would look to time the grass cutting with the reclaiming of gravel so that you're not pulling a large amount of hay onto the road.
But the way it, like some places, like there's a mound like that high, like you can't cut grass.
I'd also say that Creek Line in the report got an extra thick layer of gravel, and we're trying that out. I'd have to go and look to see how much, if there's a particular area that's got a lot of gravel that's pushed to the side, I'd have to go and have a look at it.
So that, yeah, I'm talking Creek Line, but so other roads aren't the same, like to get that crown on the road.
We have a beautiful crown on all of the roads. The guys have been very diligent trying to achieve that 5%. From what I've seen, from the roads that have had gravel apply to them, I don't feel like there's a lot of gravel that's been pushed to the side. So we just on Friday added an additional thickness to Creek Line. So I'd have to go see how it's looking today. But we can always pull it back. It'll be okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that, and thank you for this, Tom, as far as a follow-up that council has asked for, and our residents have asked for it too. And I have also received comments in the last 2 weeks from residents that have been very appreciative of the quality of the gravel, the amount of stone in it, the quantity that has been applied, and also on the crown that has been applied to the road. And this is what our residents have asked for. So thank you very much for that, Tom. And we will continue to monitor this. And the fact that you're putting an additional amount on, we have to try different things to improve it. And this is what both council and our residents have requested. And thank you very much for doing this. And we will continue to do it to upgrade and improve our roads to what they have been. Any further questions or comments of Tom, other than job well done? And continue it. Perfect. Thank you very much, Tom, for this. Is there any council committee reports that anyone would like to share with council? Please, and I'll go first to Councillor Hickey.
Thank you. Councillor Blake reached out to me last night and asked me to report for him on the Ben Miller Hall. June the 5th is the annual supper. There'll be a silent auction with proceeds going to the playground project. And also, the committee is very excited to share that they have raised nearly $61,000 to date for the playground project, which I think is an excellent amount in the time they've had. Thank you.
It absolutely is. That's wonderful. Congratulations and thank you to all that are involved in that fundraising effort. Any additional committee reports? Councillor Snowblin, please.
Yes, on May 14th, I met in Clinton with the Community Safety and Wellbeing Oversight Committee, and it was discussed at fairly great length. Since this is a mandated committee of municipalities across Ontario, there is no funding for this, and we've discussed this before at the Oversight Committee. And there is an appetite from the Oxford County to take the lead in approaching possibly the Minister of Finance at AMO about seeking funding for for this mandated committee across the municipalities, I believe. I know there's 440 or some municipalities, 44, but I believe there's 380, if I'm not mistaken, committees that are mandated through the province of Ontario with no funding. We talked about different ways to approach how to highlight that there's no funding and so on. It's about $4,600 for a booth, which seems a little high to bring awareness to this, but there is, like I said, an appetite for the Oxford County to take the lead on this. I guess the ask is the committee has asked me to approach our local MPP to have a discussion about this at the committee, which I have not done yet, but I will be approaching her. And also for the councils that are associated with the 9 lower tiers to, if they have anyone going to AMO, and I believe Councillor Miltenberg is, if they would be supportive of Oxford County and other counties that are, taking the lead on this, to approach if they can get a delegation to the Minister of Finance or whatever ministry is available to talk about funding for this mandated committee. That was the great deal of discussion, but we also have some other things coming up. I'm at a loss for words. The next priority, in July 1st, we have a new launch coming forward, and the new campaign, Community Safety and Security, and that'll be launching in July. So, and we'll be highlighting that at the Multicultural Festival in Goderich. I believe it's July 1st.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Any additional committee reports of anyone? Approximately 2 weeks ago, I did attend the South Huron Mayor's Breakfast in Exeter, and also the Goderich Mayor's Luncheon in Goderich. And we had a Mid-Huron landfill meeting a week ago, and almost want to touch wood. We are seeing the leaf shade amount decrease at the landfill, which has been a priority and a concern of the committee, and we are monitoring that as to different ways we can further enhance that of less leaf shade, because it's an absolute cost. Is there any new business that anyone would like to bring forward to a future meeting at this time? Seeing none, we have no correspondence for direction. There are a number of items for information. Do any members of council have a comment to make on this? And I will go first to Councillor Miltenberg, please.
Thank you. I have a comment on several of them. And the first one is 16.1, the AMO delegation. I would suggest that we make a delegation request both for what Anita spoke about, and I'm not sure, maybe think of maybe more than just the Minister of Finance. We maybe send the same thing out to several ministers and see who will take a bite. And the other one is I think we should try to make another delegation to short-term rental. We're doing a lot of good work. We could talk to them about it, but I still believe it should be far more direction from the province than there is. They're letting us do everything, and I'd like to point that out again. So do we want to talk about that before I move on to the next one?
Oh, absolutely. And that delegation of STRs would be the Minister of Housing, I would suggest. Would that be appropriate?
Florence sent it in last year. I think that's who it was.
My memory doesn't ring a bell today.
I have it, but I mean, if there isn't, the deadline is May 30th. So if we're open to those suggestions, I could get a draft STR one. Anita, I'm guessing, could get a draft for whatever that word was. Show the council so we can kind of agree that's more or less it. So Florence can get the paperwork done. And again, it wouldn't be the fulsome report because we don't even know if we'll get an ear, but it would give staff some direction of what to send by May 30th if we're interested in that.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Snowblin, please.
I would suggest that perhaps we could get Kelly or Florence to reach out to Michaela Johnson or Stacey Jeffrey with either the town of Goderich or South Huron, because they would have the lead people from Oxford County that they might be able to get more information.
Okay, staff good with that and the sentiment for an STR request of a delegation to address that with the appropriate ministers. Okay, and continue please, Councillor Miltberg. Okay, thanks for the question. CAO, please.
I knew that question was coming, so I emailed them on Friday, and he says they haven't forgot, and there's going to be something coming back to council to look at shortly.
Okay, thank you. To continue?
Yeah, please. Thank you for that, CAO.
There's 2 Huron County sled grants and we're successful for the Ben Miller Playground. And I want to really particularly shout out that, well, they're both great. The accessibility one is great, but initially I was like, I don't think there's any point in putting in the Ben Miller project one. And we did request quite a bit more, but I'm quite happy that they did support it. So color me wrong and willing to admit staff was smarter than me on that one instance. So good for them. And the last comment I wanted to make was 16.8, the Stratford Festival Civic Invitation Night. My very first play ever was Annie, so I'm really interested in that, but I'm guessing I'm to contact them myself. Is that how it reads? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. And I would also plan to attend that civic night. Any other items of information the council would like to comment on? And I will go first to Councillor Hickey, please.
Thank you. I'd like just to acknowledge 16.2, the McKay Center update. That's a program that we supported and helped get going. They've got part-time custodian and part-time program consultant that started earlier this May, and it looks like they have a barbecue coming up in June to get awareness out and events. So I'd just like to acknowledge that. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, and that is very positive. Totally. Absolutely. Anything additional? Seeing none, under unfinished business, the AMO conference that Councillor Miltenberg and myself plan to attend. We have one bylaw, and I would entertain a mover and a seconder for this bylaw, please. And it would be Deputy Mayor Vanstone, Councillor Miltenberg. The leave be given to introduce bylaw number 31-2025, being a bylaw to adopt a community grants policy for the Township of Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh, and then it now be read severally, a first, second, and third time, and finally passed this 20th day of May 2025. All in favor of the motion is read. That is carried. We do have a closed session today, and I would entertain a mover and a seconder for this. And that is Councillor Snoblin and Hickey, that Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh Township Council move into a closed session in accordance with Section 239 in brackets 2 in brackets B, E, and F in brackets of the Municipal Act, with the CAO, the clerk, the Public Works remaining in attendance for the duration, and the CBO remaining in attendance for items 19.1 and 2 at 10:40 a.m. for the purpose of discussing personal information about an identifiable individual, including municipal employees, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality, and advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for the purpose. And that would include property standards, building code, and zoning bylaw contraventions and public works. All in favor of the motion is read. And that is carried. And howbeit we have a break for 5 minutes to allow our clerk the opportunity to secure the meeting, and we will resume in our closed session. Thanks. We're back in our open session, and I will ask our clerk for reporting out of our closed session, please.
There's nothing to report today.
Thank you very much. We have our confirmatory bylaw, and I will entertain a mover and a seconder for this, please. Deputy Mayor Vanstone, Councillor Snoblin, that leave be given to introduce bylaw number 32-2025, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Township of Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh Council meeting held on May 20th, 2025, and then it now be read severally a first, second, and third time, and finally pass this 20th day of May 2025. All in favor of the motion is read. And that is carried. Thank you very much for everyone's input today, and I will entertain a mover and a seconder to adjourn this meeting. Councillors Forster and Miltonberg, that Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh Township Council does now adjourn to meet again on June 3rd, 2025 at 9 a.m. or at the call of the mayor. All in favor of this motion, and that again is carried. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.